Hey guys, welcome to my YouTube channel, or welcome back if you've been here before. My name is Liz and this is Let's Get Lizicle, where we do everything card making. And today we have a new product release, which I'm super excited about. If you're into everything creepy and Christmas, then this is your set. Merry Creepmas will come out on Sunday, July 20th at noon. And I am, again, very excited about this set. I have been doing like creepy Christmas cards since 2018 after a request from a friend of mine at work, and have been doing them ever since. And last year or the year before, I think I designed like this snowman, and I was going to put it on a card for her, and I was like, you know what? I am actually going to save this for a stamp set. And that's how this came about. And I decided to do this like whimsical Christmas tree to go with it, and some like little candy canes with the skull bow and a little Santa skull. And that was kind of like reminiscent of the very first card that I made with the skull. I ended up making a cut file for a skull with a Santa hat and adding that onto a card. I'll just pop that up in the corner here. This was the very first like skull card that I ever made that was Christmas themed. But that's where like this came from. And I just thought that, you know, little skull ornaments and garlands would just look great on this tree. They're so adorable. I love them so much. Oh my God. And the way that I set up the stamps and the dies is that the skull garland, as well as the skull ornaments and the regular ornaments, they're all kind of grouped together onto one stamp. And then I did the same with the dies so that they're easy to cut out. You're not having to line up a bunch of dies for a little tiny images, and that you can cut them all together. So I thought that that would be helpful for people who have this set. I find it very helpful for myself. And the garland gets cut out, and then you can actually, if you want, cut a bunch of these and kind of like string them along on a card and just do that. They are like very, very tiny because they're meant to go on this tree. But yeah, so it would be like a super fun card idea. I do have an idea with the ornaments that I will probably do in maybe for Saturday's video. I have like a bunch of designs to do. I just haven't done all the videos yet for them. So I will be focusing on that this weekend so that I can give you guys as much inspiration as possible for the stamp set. I know sometimes it's a little bit harder to come up with cards for a creepy Christmas, but I, again, have a bunch of ideas for both this set and like mixing it kind of like with my Sassy Santa set as well, because I think they like will coordinate very well together, and I'll show you that on Sunday for launch day. I have a special card planned for the two of them together. But anyway, I am coloring the tree. I saw I believe it was a YouTube short from my friend Kate over at Kate Crafts, where she just did this really dark Christmas tree, and I was like, you know what, that's a great idea. I had stamped and colored this in green, like a standard green Christmas tree at one point, and I just thought that the monochromatic color scheme that I'm kind of going for on this card would work best with doing a black and gray tree. So what I did was I used C9 and C7 on the tree, and then for the stump I added straight black and a C9 just to differentiate it a little bit. And for the skulls on the garland, I'm just adding a C3 marker to the bottom half of the skull, just to add a little bit of shading. You could definitely make these super colorful. You can make them into lights if you want, make them look like they're glowing, which I think would be fun. This can kind of be a little bit of, you know, both worlds, where it's either garland or lights, which I can, again, show in another project. But for today, I'm using this as like a skull garland. I added little red dots to the center dot. Between each skull, there's 3 circles that you can color in or leave them kind of like a chain. And I decided just to bring the red that I'm using on the snowman into the garland, just to bring it a little bit more into the card, because really the only image with actual color on this card will be this snowman. So I'm adding reds and then greens for the holly leaves. I'm going to keep his hat in the black, so I'm doing the same C9, C7 combination, which is what I usually use for blacks. in all of my coloring. I never use a straight black, except in the case where I want to go darker on the tree stump, then I'll use a solid black and then go down to the C9 for that. And then for the snow, I just add a little bit of a light blue. I think the color is called Ice on Olo markers, and it's like a really good color. It's kind of like somewhat minty, but it adds that like cool tone to the snow, which is what I like to add. So right now I'm using the 2.2, which is a sky blue, and then I kind of blend it out with the 2.0 ice color. They're a little bit different. I mean, I wouldn't have probably put these two colors together because the ice blue is a little bit more minty than the sky blue, but you know, I make it work. But yeah, just use a very, very like light blue along the edges just to give a little bit of depth and dimension to the snowballs. And then I usually add a few dots here and there just for a bit of texture. And then as usual, we're going to double stamp our images because you guys know I love to do that if you've been here for any length of time. I find that alcohol markers do bleed the color out a little bit when you're coloring on them. So I like to stamp again once I'm done just to bring those black lines back. And then I'm going to use the coordinating dies to cut out all the images. So you can see here that the garland is all attached on one die, and we'll cut all 3 strips out at once. And the same goes for the 2 normal ornaments, quote unquote. They're just like circle balls. And there's 4 of the skull ornaments together. I did decide that since this was more of a creepy set that I would do 4 of the skull ones and 2 of the regular ones instead of doing 4 and 4. And you could do either a mixture on your card, or you could just do the skulls or just the plain ones, or whatever, you know, whatever your vibe is for that specific card. These ones didn't cut 100% very well just because of my cutting mat. You can see my magnetic mat is kind of like bunched up a little bit here. I found that if it's a little bit too tight, it kind of like shifts a bit. I don't know, again, if anybody else has had this issue with their magnetic mats, but I probably will not be getting it again. And I find myself taping things still anyway because they will shift on the magnet. It's not like such a strong magnet that it won't shift. So I just like to be sure that it's not going to shift and I'm not going to waste my time on all that coloring, and tape my projects down before I cut them. And then for the scene, we're just creating a very simple card for today, guys. Tomorrow, we're going to get a little bit more in depth by making our own pattern paper, which I will have a template for because it took me a bit of time and I did it on Illustrator. So it was a little bit easier for me to lay out, which again, you'll see tomorrow. But I wanted to keep this introduction video just something quick and simple and just really let you guys see, you know, some of the things you could do with the card. And for the next 3 days, we'll be showing you even more. I do have a lot of plans for these, and I'm super happy with how the stamp set turned out. I have been dying to release this, but I wanted to save it for Christmas in July. So again, super excited about this set, and I hope you guys are too. The coordinating dies for this set actually cut out all the images in the set. So all of the ornaments, the star that goes on the tree, the sentiments, and everything, like literally every image has a coordinating die, which I love. I love it when the sentiments come with the coordinating dies because I do find it a lot easier and more versatile. I find that when you're able to either stamp or heat emboss on the same colored cardstock as your background, it gives you a little bit more play with your backgrounds. Like you don't have to be stressed about, you know, masking things off or getting into the sentiment. Because before, a lot of sentiments would just be stamped, no coordinating dies to go with them. So you would have to stamp them directly on the card or fussy cut them out. Again, I hate fussy cutting. So as little as I have to do that as possible, it's great. So I find that if I'm going to add a sentiment and I don't want to stamp it directly on the card, I could stamp it on white and add this on top after, and it still kind of blends into the background. Which is why I like to add dies for all of my sentiments when possible. So for this card, I didn't want the white borders on the garland, so I am going to color these in with the coordinating alcohol markers in the background, and I just do it to the edge of like the tree line there. I'll just add a bit of a line to show where I'm going to be coloring in, and the bottoms of them for the most part are colored with the C7, and then the top ones that are in the darker area are colored in the C9, just to help them blend in. I find it the best way to work with the garland is to, if you don't want the white lines, is to color them in to match, and they kind of blend in really well, and you don't notice that it's a separate image unless you look closely. So you'll see that I glued the tree directly onto the background. I propped up the snow hill on the 1mm foam tape from scrapbook.com. It's 1-inch thickness, which I kind of love because it's really big, but I can cut it down to whatever size I need, which is what I did here for the snowman. And because I wanted the snowman propped up on top of that as well, I am going to add 1 layer to the bottom, and then anything that overhangs that, I'm going to add 2 layers just because it will need to be propped up a little bit higher for the background to make the image even. And then once that's done, we're going to stamp our image in the bottom left corner directly onto the card base. I didn't bother stamping and die cutting it out. And I'm also adding some controlled snow into the background with some acrylic paint and my dotting tool. And I'm adding it to the tree and a couple to the snowman as well, just to make it look like they're a part of the scene and it's not just kind of thrown on top. I like to add the snow just to make it a little bit more of a cohesive scene. So the rest of this card, I'll just be adding some highlights and stamping on that image in the bottom left. I end up using Simon's slate ink, which is what I use to stamp my logo on the back of the cards. And it went really well with the cardstock in the background because I believe it is also the slate color from Simon Says Stamp. And I just, again, wanted to keep everything pretty monochromatic except for the snowman because to me, he's the focus of this card. But yeah, so that's our first video for this month's launch. I'm super excited to work on some more cards and inspiration for you guys. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and comment down below and let me know your thoughts. I will have this again available on Sunday, July 20th at noon. And I will also be having a sale for the full week. So from Sunday to Saturday next week, I will have everything in my shop on 10% off. So be sure to head on over to Let's Get Lizicle and place your order from Sunday onwards. So thanks again for joining me for today, guys. If you are not already subscribed to my channel, please subscribe because I'd love to have you here, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss any future content. Again, we'll be having introductory videos for this stamp and die set all weekend, and launch will be on Sunday. So again, super exciting. You guys can't understand the level of excitement for the stamp set and next month's stamp set as well, which will be fully Halloween themed, by the way. Also, the links for this video are not quite ready, so I'll make sure to update these on Sunday. So if you want, you can come back on Sunday for the direct links. Or, again, you can just head on over to letsgetlizicle.com and place your order then. But I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Bye.